Hey, Jaquila, nice to see you. Hey, everyone, this is Luminara Sirdar, autism recovery expert. I'm a scientist, holistic healer. I've done several autism recovery summits. Maybe you've seen some of them. I have them all online on my website at autismtransformed.com. And maybe you're here from my Instagram page or my Facebook page. So welcome, or wherever you came from. Autism Transformed is my handle, and Luminara Sirdar is my name. And I just want to double check that I am indeed recording on Facebook. I'm not quite sure where to find it. Let's see, because I want to be able to see everyone's questions on there. So let me double check. Got some logistics stuff. Okay. Okay. I'm not seeing the chat on Facebook, but I'll get to that later. So I wanted to start by saying that this, it's December 4th, 2020. And I wanted to put out, I did put out an email asking, what are your concerns around behaviors? I got a ton of responses, so I'm going to try and get through all of those as much as possible. And the people on Facebook who are live, assuming I can find them. Technology is my challenge. So thanks for being here, and thanks for submitting questions ahead of time. And this is being recorded. So if you're listening to the recording and you're not actually at the live event and you submitted a question, I'll answer. But I want to start with, first of all, saying a little bit about behaviors. I appreciate those who I can see your videos. Thanks for that. It's nice to actually see people, but I am going to be switching back and forth on, I just have a little bit of a script written now, so don't forget anything. So we always wonder why these behaviors. Well, let's just, I'm holistic. So I'm going to take a step back and kind of look at a holistic overall view and say, why do we do any behaviors we do as humans? Whether we're kids or whether we're adults. Why do we behave in the ways we behave? So what we see, what you might be seeing with your child is a certain stimming, or I listed all these behaviors in my email, and some parents said that my child's doing all of those and this. So it could be anxiety, it could be picky eating, it could be anger, frustration, tantrums, anxiety, crying for no reason. So there's a lot of different behaviors. And why do we behave? Why do we express? Well, I've written down a few things that popped into my head. Well, first, we're expressing because it's an expression of originality, right? So a lot of times you'll see kids hey, look at me. See, look what I'm doing. I want to show you who I am. So that's, a basic expression and a behavior we do. And there can be steps in learning. So when someone has echolalia and they're repeating the same thing back to you, or maybe they're scripting from a video, there's a place in our neurological development where that's actually a stage. And so they're stuck in that stage. So it could be a learning process, right? Learning something. And it could be also an expression of what's going on inside their body. So just think about how you feel when you have a cold or the flu. Think about when you get a flu and you kind of feverish and you feel lethargic, you're really tired. You don't want to do anything. You're kind of crabby. You're irritable. So think about, maybe you don't want to eat a lot. Think about how you as a person, as a parent, express. And I feel like the expressions that we have fall into some of those categories. Maybe there's more I'm not covering, but it's an expression of what it could be, a pure joy that we're feeling that we want to express to another. So I just want to start by saying, let's just take a step back and think about, why do we express? Why do we do behaviors? So what I tend to see in my practice, the people that come to me, I focus on what's going on internally from a functional nutrition point of view, or how's the body working on the inside? And if we think about these different behaviors that our kids have, or any neurodevelopmental issue, the brain isn't developing on time. I once interviewed Dr. Robert Melillo. He started the Brain Balance, and he has a really great book called, I think it's called Brain Balance. It might have some other words in it. And he was talking about how the brain areas develop at different times. So for 3 months, maybe this area of the left brain will develop. And then after that's done developing, an area on the right side will develop for 6 months. So if we have an injury or insult, or maybe we hit our heads, or maybe we, are exposed to something during that time of development of that particular area of the brain, it won't develop up to par like what it's supposed to, because there's things in the way, right? Maybe we hit it, we got a concussion, there's toxins in it for whatever reason. So if we have uneven brain development, a lot of times we see I see in my practice for sure, really bright, intelligent kids, but then maybe they can't speak or they can't express a certain way, like there's a certain intelligence there, but that certain areas of the brain aren't developed. Or as another one of my mentors, Dr. Newbrander, has spoken to, there's what he sees, like there's this area in the back of the brain that is related to speech, where it's like, imagine you have a 7-lane freeway condensed down to 1 lane because there's lots of traffic. So there's all this input wanting to get out through the speech, but the pathway that it has to go through is so limited and so narrow that, sometimes I'll talk to parents who hear their child, like they're really trying to get a word out, or they're thinking, but it can't come out, and they're really trying hard, but it's just like it's stuck in there. So these are brain development issues, and some of the things that can affect our behavior, our behavior and our child's behavior. I want to kind of generalize this because we have this too. So think about the food we eat, right? I had one person write in with some questions and said, my child's behavior improved when I took dairy out. So there are offensive foods that our body doesn't like. And I don't want to go off into a tangent, but I'm just going to go off into this one. And you may know this or you may not know this, but most of our food, what we call food today, isn't really food. It's processed stuff, right? And all the nutrients have been taken out, or most of them, and then put back in an artificial way. So if we think about flour or bread, they put folic acid back in, they put different things back in, they put vitamin D into the milk. But if we actually think about drinking milk or having cheese or having dairy, I like to think, well, where did that come from? The milk, the cow that produced that milk, how was that living? Was that fed genetically modified food that it's normally supposed to eat grass, a cow, but was it fed, grain pellets of corn so it can fatten up? Was it given hormones? Was it given antibiotics? All of that stuff that makes up the animal goes into what the animal produces, whether it's the meat or the milk. So I just ask you to think about the back, the origin of where our food comes from. So in my opinion, not a lot of food is food. And then, so kids can be really sensitive, and, you as an adult might be sensitive. So I know a lot of people have gone gluten-free, dairy-free, soy-free, egg-free, corn-free. And then there's really wonderful foods like blueberries that have salicylates, or, probiotics, or leftover foods or fermented foods that are high in histamine. So people can have different sensitivities. And this is all a sign that something is disrupted in the body. So when you see, let's say you give your child sneaks a cookie that has flour in it, that has wheat, and then you see this, odd behaviors afterwards, maybe hyperactivity. I've heard from a lot of parents that their child will get a hold of a cupcake or sugar or, something with colors in it, and then they're hyper for the next 2 hours, or they can't fall asleep that night. So think about how food influences behavior. And why should food influence our behavior? Well, maybe if it's not really food, but if we're eating whole good foods and we're still having issues and reactions and it's creating behaviors, then we have to look inside and say, well, why is the body not handling this the way it should be? So that's one of the things that I geek out on. It's fun for me. And then think about what your child might be exposed to. So in school, there's, especially nowadays, there's probably a ton of chemicals that people are using to constantly disinfect. And mold, schools are notoriously high, have high levels of mold. Mold is very common in the house nowadays. Um, you know, I remember once going out to Target with my son, and we had his friend with him. And as soon as we went near like the laundry soap aisle, he just kept getting red eyes. His eyes were watering. He would get itchy. And I thought, wow, just being near those smells, he's having a reaction. So think about those kinds of exposures, and not just, what we might be exposed to at the grocery store, but also like, did you buy new furniture? What's in the bedding that your child is sleeping on? A lot of times they put fire retardants, which are pretty toxic to the body. What's your floor, the glue in your floor and walls off gassing, or your new furniture, or the fire retardants on your carpet or your sofa, or your furniture. So there's kind of a lot to think about. What's in your cookware, what's in your food, what's in your storage containers. So it's a lot to think about, but those things can be, if someone's really sensitive and there's dysfunction inside the body, those things can affect them, and that can create behaviors. And when I say behaviors, I say the whole range of things, and I'm just speaking generally right now. We can have emotional reactions, right? So we all want to be treated well. We all want to be loved. And, I'm the first to admit I wasn't always the most calm parent. I did yell at my child once or twice. And, we get frustrated, we get angry. And anyway, and it's not just us, it's therapists, it's teachers, it's kids. And so, there's an emotional sensitivity. So we can be emotional, that from our behaviors can be from feeling our emotions. Our kids can be sensitive to, EMFs. So that's cell phone tower. I just moved into a new place and I have a smart meter, and I bought these EMF readers, and it was like off the charts when I went near it to read it. So I'm still trying to figure out what to do about that, but there are protective things. I bought my meters from a site called lessemf.com. And I've talked to parents who will turn their Wi-Fi and turn things off at night electrically, so their kids can sleep better. So that can be a big help, and they say it makes a difference. So think about cell phone towers and electrical wires and things like that. Could that be amping up your child? And what goes hand in hand with that is we tend to be sensitive to those things if we've got mold toxins in the body, and metals. So think heavy metal exposures. I've worked with kids who have huge levels of uranium, of mercury, of different things, of different organic compounds like dry cleaning chemicals, and MTBE, which is a gasoline additive. And, parents never dry cleaned. We have no idea how they got them, but this is getting in. So anyway, that's to say the EMF sensitivity can go with other toxins in the body. Let's see, I think about people's energy. So, is your child's therapist, or, speech therapy, occupational therapist, teacher, are they having a bad day? That their energy can affect a child. Also, what I've seen, I'm copying to it. What I've experienced is when my son was younger, I might tell him one thing with my words, but have a whole different like anger energy going in my body, and kids are going to pick up on that energy. And then think about, there's chemical imbalances in the body. I mean, this is what I focus on. There's inflammation, right? It can be in the brain, it can be in the gut, and it can be elsewhere in the body. I mentioned already uneven brain development, and then that can throw neurochemistry out of whack. Also, toxins and inflammation in the brain can throw off neurochemistry. Genetics or epigenetics. Some of you might have heard of the SNPs, single single nucleotide polymorphisms as a way to look at genetics and what mutations your child has, and that correlates to how they function, how things in their body function. So we can have things in the epigenetics means over the genes. Epi means over. So if there is an environmental toxin sitting on top of your gene, it can affect whether that gets expressed or not, and then affect function in the body. So think about chemical imbalances, inflammation. There's a lot of oxidation. So sometimes we take antioxidants to help the body. It's because our cells normally do these processes and they produce oxidized chemicals, which are kind of like burn and fire. You know, they need to be taken care of. It's kind of like we need to put water on the fire of those oxidants. That's why we use antioxidants to quench those. And then they're not as harmful. And in a regularly functioning body, there's a process for doing that naturally. There's a balance with that. So just this is where I come from, all these things that can be creating behaviors. And ultimately, you know, the brain is controlling a lot of, you know, the brain is controlling function. So if we can't, I worked with a young boy, young man who, you know, couldn't control his hands, and he would pull his mom's hair. So that's the brain not telling the hands to do the proper thing. So that's a neurological issue. And that's really, to me, the definition of autism. It's a set of behaviors that involve the brain, and it's neurodevelopmental. Okay. Let me see what else I wanted to say. Yeah, so the way that I look at the behaviors and what is inside that causes them is I see things that don't belong in the body. So think about if your child's body is like a house, and think about your house. If you haven't taken your trash out of your house for a year, what might it look like? Right? You might not be able to walk around. You might not be able to bring your groceries and get them into the refrigerator, so maybe they'll spoil. You might not be able to get to where you need to go. And it's certainly difficult to take things out. So I see a child with autism with a body that has a lot of trash in it. And when you take the trash out, the body can function better. You can get to where you need to go. But that's a process, and you need to do it in a certain order. So if you have trash in the back bedroom, you're not going to try and move that out first. You're going to try and move the stuff out that's closer to the door, the entryway. So this process in the body is called drainage. And what we want to do is open up the entire body so that all that garbage in the house can come out, so that toxins can leave the body. But there's a specific order and a specific sequence to do it in, because like I said, if you're trying to move that trash out of the bedroom, it's just going to get stuck somewhere else in the house. It's not going to be able to flow through. And so I see this process a lot like, I see the body a little bit like a machine with gears, right? Picture those old clocks with the gears. And I'm just going to pause for a moment because I keep hearing noise. I'm going to mute everyone. Let's see, mute all. Okay. Okay, that way we'll have a clean recording. So like I was saying, if the body's a machine with these gears, there's wrenches in the gears. And so what we want to do is pull the wrenches out in a gentle way, and then the gears just move. All right. I'd love to have a little feedback. Nod your head or give me a thumbs up if that's making sense. Or, okay, I see it. I see some thumbs up. Great, thanks. Okay. What I want to say now is if you do have a question on Zoom, you can type it into the chat. And for Facebook, well, I'm still looking for the video there. There we are. Great, I see that someone made a comment, behavior is communication. That is absolutely true. Behavior is communication. Okay, so what I want to do is start answering your individual questions. And oh, hi, Srimita, I'm just seeing you now and see why. Awesome for you guys to be here. And I'm going to go, hi, Roxy. I'm going to go in the order that I received the emails. So this might speak to you, right? To your particular situation. So someone else's situation might be similar to yours. Payel, you said how to address, and I didn't see the rest. Oh, there it is. Zinc copper imbalance. Okay. I'm going to go to my page of questions first. I'll get back. You know what? I'm going to start with you, Payel. How to address zinc copper imbalance. I think you need testing. And I don't know what you've done in regards to that, but that's a tricky one. And have you done testing?
Yeah. Yes.
And what you want to say any more about that?
So my son was he had low zinc, so he was given zinc supplement. And then once he was given the zinc supplement, his we just did the test last month and this month, and it's very off. Uh, the zinc was high, the copper was high. Instead of copper getting less, it increased. So that was surprising, and the doctors couldn't figure out uh, what to do with the high zinc and copper. So, what do you do to address the balance?
Yeah, you know what, I don't want to get into super specifics, but there are other things to look at to balance, like B6, there's pyroluria. It's the way the body handles it. So I've also had like a child we put on zinc, and it just seems to not be getting in. So that's a more of a biochemical thing happening in the body. So you can, like, for instance, you can be giving your child a lot of B12 and have a high B12 on the test. It just tells me things aren't getting in. So what that tells me is there's a huge imbalance, and it's you need to look deeper. Are you working with a functional doctor?
Yeah, yeah, we go to Dr. Newbrander.
Oh, Dr. Newbrander. Okay. So he should be able to handle that. He should be able to give you some other nutrients to balance that, because it's something underlying. Actually, when I had the thought to say B12, and you have high levels in your blood, I was thinking of his lecture during my training. So I think you're in good hands there. And there's something called pyroluria, and it involves also vitamin B6. He'll probably know about that, but I would suggest going deeper down that rabbit hole.
Okay.
Um, I want to get to some other questions. It's more complicated, is what I'm trying to say, than just doing that. And I think also for that, I'm probably going to say this for everything, but for that, I would consider different toxicities, not just copper and zinc, but I would look at what other metals are toxic and what other toxins are in there. And maybe you guys have done a panel like that already, like something from Great Plains or whatever labs he uses. But I would look at other things that are in the way.
Okay. Got it.
I'm going to go to an email question I got. Let's see, my teen son is high functioning PDD-NOS, has excess energy, which are his words, for many years, where he has to run back and forth, usually with a particular head tilt and making certain utterances. He seems unable to regulate. One doctor said it's stimming and use ABA, did that for a long time with no improvements. Another doctor said it's ADHD and wants to prescribe medication. I think it's sensory processing disorder, which would also account for his anxiety, attention issues, and picky eating. What can I do to help him regulate? Well, one of the people that I interviewed in my summit, um, Carol Garner Houston, has the Brain Harmony program, and maybe some of you know it as Safe and Sound. It's a listening thing where it puts certain brain waves in the brain and helps to really calm. So those kids who are more stuck in that anxiety, fight or flight, it can actually balance their autonomic nervous system. So bring the rest and digest up. But for this particular thing with this excess energy, I feel I personally wouldn't do medication. I would dig deeper, and and it could definitely be sensory processing disorder, but that's just a label. So what's beneath the sensory processing issue? So and anxiety and attention, picky eating. So I would look at balancing minerals and vitamins, but I would really look at taking toxins out. And probably there's some neural inflammation. There's probably some toxicity. There's probably some a neurotransmitter imbalance. So for anxiety, this is for everyone. For anxiety, you can look at, I'm going to grab a book, just a minute. Where's my book? So this is an awesome resource. It's called the Mood Cure by Julia Ross. And if any of you guys tuned into the Anxiety Summit with Trudy Scott, I think it was just about a month ago, she has a lot of solutions for anxiety. So if you Google Trudy Scott, she uses the methods that Julia Ross has here, but she really zeroes in on anxiety. She uses certain amino acids like GABA aminobutyric acid. That's the calming neurotransmitter for the brain. Tryptophan and 5-hydroxytryptophan, 5-HTP. And possibly, so there's a combination of amino acids that can be used and to help immediately with calming and while you're digging to the deeper issue. But I really feel like metals are a big issue, like lead, mercury, cadmium. So we have to get these out in a safe way. Next question. My son constantly picks calluses on the bottom of his feet, pulls hair from his legs. He also seems stuck in fight or flight. Are these symptoms of sensory processing disorder? That sounds a little stimmy to me too. And I would say the same thing I said for the previous question, with the stuck in fight or flight, right? Just to find some calming techniques, whether it's amino acids or whether it's this safe and sound, the brain harmony, or there are other, calming listening programs. And again, sensory, when I hear sensory processing disorder, what does that mean? It means something's not working right in the brain. So we have a sensory motor system. The sensory means the brain is getting input from the rest of the body and saying, hey, here I am in space. Hey, I have an itch here, or, I have pain. So that's a signal going to the brain. And then processing of that could be an issue. And the motor part is where the brain says, hey, finger move like this, or stomach squirt out, hydrochloric acid right now, or whatever it is, so it's a direction from the brain to the rest of the body. And there's a lot of coordination that goes on. So I find what gets in the way are toxins. There can be neural networks that are like tangled, right? Because they didn't develop properly. So there's all these tangles. And I think of like an overgrown tree with all these branches, right? Or weeds, they're all tangled. And then the brain is so smart, it finds a way around that to do things. So that's what I see as sensory processing disorder. Again, wrenches in the gear. So to help with the fight or flight, again, the amino acids, the listening programs, breathing is a great one if kids will listen to that. And then the picking and pulling, it sounds really stimmy. And I think stimmy behavior can be because of, again, a toxic situation. But I think we make these neural networks, right? We find these ways to calm and to make ourselves feel good, right? So that could actually make him feel good in a certain way. So let's think about why the behavior. Well, maybe that feels good and that's calming, and that's a consistent thing that happens. And then this is where I'm not a super huge fan of ABA, applied behavior analysis, or maybe all the methods they use, but I think that we can retrain the brain. I'm not sure if we do it through ABA or just certain, really we need to retrain certain things. So whatever neurological program or method you use for that. Do tests from places like 23andMe provide any useful information on neurotransmitters, detoxification, etc.? How do I find someone who will interpret the test for me? What's his name? Bob Miller. check Bob Miller, SNPs, epigenetics. I can't remember the name of the place. I'm not sure 23andMe provides that, but what Bob Miller's company does is they take the genetic profile and correlate different sort of behaviors that can come from that. Or like, let's say they find MTHFR mutation, and then say, oh, you're 60% down in your level of ability to detoxify. And then they can give you clues as to what nutrients to help with that. My first step would be get the stuff out in the first place, right? That's causing the mutations. So I would start with his organization. I'm going to come back to Zoom and go to the top and see. Let's see. Chewing hair, aggressive, holds paper always. So I think the holding is an anxiety thing. So think about that. Think about why does your child hold? Aggressive, I really feel like, okay, if anybody's constipated, if any child is constipated, when the feces sits in the colon for a long time, even if they're not constipated, let's say you're doing some kind of nystatin or killing of something, that's going to produce toxins. What we want to do is not have them, the liver, they go through the liver and they process, and then they're going out through the digestive tract. And what we don't want them to do is reabsorb into the body. So a lot of times with aggression, even anxiety, I'm not sure about the chewing hair. That could be a sign of anxiety too. I don't have a full context here, but these kinds of things can be related to constipation and toxins just getting reabsorbed in the body. So I don't know if you've heard me speak before. I'm a big fan of binders, and binders are like, things you take orally, like activated charcoal, and they bind, like they're like sponges. They bind up toxins in the gut. So they actually go out in the bowel movement and don't get reabsorbed. And some kids I'm seeing are on tons and tons of binders because they're letting go of a lot of stuff. And this is making sure it leaves the body. How do we know practically that drainage is working? Well, what I see when drainage is working is I see behaviors tend to settle down. And a lot of times parents will tell me that their child's poop is stinky, black, tarry, looks metallic, has flecks in it, a lot of different signs, maybe has parasites in it. The urine is cloudy, smelly. I had one mom who would tell me that she would have to go turn on the bathroom fan after her son urinated because it was just so stinky. So that's a sign that things are coming out in the urine, things are coming out in the feces, and bad breath is another sign, right? That things are coming out through the breath. So yeah, I'm trying to think if there's any other signs that, drainage is working. I also hear from my clients that like their kids just seem more with it, more attentive, kind of more life, interactive with the family, interactive with siblings. I'm seeing that a lot. So it's really improvements. I would say keep going with drainage, whatever you're doing, Maria, with your practitioner. Or for yourself, keep going. Just keep going. It's a process. Ruby says, my son wakes up laughing, no reason. Is he eating something that's causing this? If so, is there a test to figure out what foods to avoid? There are food sensitivity tests. So you can talk to your practitioner about getting one of those food allergy tests. Waking up laughing, my sense of that is if it's in the morning, we detox at night when we sleep. And so if there's a lot of toxins leaving the body, Rupi, I would use binders for him at night. So activated charcoal, chlorella. I love the binders from Cellcore Biosciences. Biotoxin binder is a good one to start with. And even increasing apple, if your kids eat apples, the pectin from apples will help. So it might be a toxin overload in the morning, waking up laughing. If it's possible. Virginia, my daughter is 28 years old with seizures and autism. Finally, she is responding to detoxing using Hulda Clark. We did drainage first and we are on parasites removal, but for years she is very aggressive towards me, only me. We're monitoring her constipation, but she will not stop hugging me very hard and pulling on my hair. Yeah, so you guys might have some certain entanglement, like a neurological network, like a habit that she's formed, right? So partly is, I would say, to, really work on changing, like to consciously, outwardly change and give her different directions, which you've probably done, is my guess after the years. Um, you might want to increase binders, but it sounds like you have a good handle on that. It sounds to me like it's a behavioral, emotional entanglement thing, and gosh, so much to go into. Um, I've seen this before where this boy I was working with would constantly, I've seen it with a lot of kids, constantly hug and grab and kiss the parents. And I think that I, th- I think it's a real attachment thing, like with parents and kids, and that you need to just really kind of train, I mean, in a good way, your daughter, that this is inappropriate and this is what's appropriate. So have a replacement behavior. That's my best guess. Um, if I were working with you, I'd clear a bunch of emotional stuff and entanglements. So look, that's a clue to look for those things. Maria, excuse me, I need a little drink. What's the reason for high B12 without supplements? 1978 and high cholesterol. Oh, okay, you're giving me numbers. Are those high cholesterol, 242? Are those related? That's HDL. He also had potential pathogen Klebsiella and another one, Moellarella Wisconsin census. Okay, so some bugs in there. Obviously, some dysfunction in high B12 without supplements. So our microbes in our intestines make B12. So, and it sounds like he's got some imbalance with pathogens. So, gosh, that's what I would think of. The cholesterol, I'm not a super expert in the cholesterol, but what comes to mind is that he might have some bile blockage. So bile ducts, I might think parasites, I might think a lot of toxicity, liver bile not flowing, liver and gallbladder and bile ducts not flowing, because cholesterol is a big part of making a bunch of hormones. And if it's high and blocked there, they're not going down the pathway to make our hormones, to make things. So he might have some hormonal issues. I don't really know because you didn't mention it. So I would work on getting his liver and bile open. And there are a bunch of good supplements for that. There's castor oil packs. You can do a physical clockwise, sorry, I'm thinking colon. You could do a liver compression. So you can actually, I'm going to put my screen down a little bit. You can actually, right under the right side, you can just compress and might help to squeeze out the bile. You can also do coffee enemas. So I would look up how to do that online. Those are some things that'll get the bile moving. This product from Cellcore Bioscience is TUDCA, TUDCA. It's a bile acid, and that helps move things through. Ox bile, also, there's a lot of supplements that are ox bile. I would get, I think it's Natural Factors, uses cows from New Zealand that tend to be cleaner. So I would use that ox bile. So just anything to get that moving, and then probiotics. Okay. Webalore. Oh, I had an email from you. My son is very sensory, and recently his sensory needs have increased. He is always humping on soft pillows, soft toys, cushion hands. He humps on it so intensely until he becomes hard and erect. This has given me concern, and I was wondering what I can do to get his sensory overload under control. So I feel like sensory seeking is the brain needing input. It feels good in some way to seek these sensory things. I've had parents who have told me about priapism. So priapism is when the penis becomes hard for no reason, but it sounds like he is stimulating that. I think it's toxin related. And so I would definitely for this, I would, seek some help with drainage and detox. I mean, all your kids actually, but excuse me. Um, I think that he's seeking something, right? He wants to feel good. So maybe give. I think let me pull up your email because you were towards the end. There it is. Sensory processing disorder, learning and communication difficulties, amongst other challenges. So he has allergies. Um, you've tried a lot of diets and protocols. He's currently taking a bunch of supplements. Yeah, you gave me a lot of information. Um, it sounds like I mean, yay, you've done some really amazing things. So that's awesome. And it sounds like he's still pretty toxic. So, and sounds like his gut is still, he has leaky gut, he has gut issues. So is that you unmuting, Obalor? Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Sorry.
I
Hi.
can.
Yeah, I've done. He was diagnosed when he was 3 years old, and he's 9 now, and I've done. Oh my God, I've done so much with him, and any test I could do, I've done it as well. He's come a long way in terms of imbalances because he's suffered with so many different things, and one thing triggers another. So
And
over the
could you
years,
pass the brandy here for us, please?
Mute you, Roxy. There you go. Okay, go ahead, Webalor.
yeah, so why I was asking is I have tried quite a few things in terms of trying to redirect and trying to kind of discourage behaviors that are not positive. But it's not really easy, especially as he's growing. He's 9 now, and some people think it's just the onset of puberty. But even at that, I feel it's inappropriate, especially when there are people around for him to be doing that. And as I said, he really gets erect, so he's definitely stimulating to get some type of input. It's more like, how do I help him or redirect him
Right.
to, yeah.
Right. Well, I'm going to tell you a little story. When my son was, it might be related somewhat. When my son was going to daycare, he was 1 or 2 or something, and he went to a male daycare provider, and his mother-in-law was there, and they had help and stuff. But really compassionate man. And I said, Noah likes to play with his penis, and when does this stage stop? And he just grew this big smile on his face. He says, "Never." He's like 50 years old or something. So boys have a penis, they're gonna always play with it. So that's my point. Like it's just there. What I would do to redirect him is just take him in his room. Take him in a private place when he does that, and say it's okay to do that in here, but not
Oh,
out
he does
here.
that already. He does that already now. He tries to walk into. He knows sometimes when I'm around, he knows that mommy discourages it, so he just takes his pillow, he goes to his bed on the pillow and just does it. And I just open the door sometimes when I don't see him, and I find him in there just doing what he's doing in his room. You know.
Well, like I said, I mean, maybe the men on here can on the call can concur. We're women, we don't understand it, but it's, it can also be a developmental phase, and I don't think puberty, but like it depends. What I see is kids are at different developmental stages for different things.
Yeah,
So is he in that stage where he's exploring penis and he's just stuck in that stage, but not
yeah.
exploring penis as a pubescent boy? So I would, you know what, as long as he does it in his room and he does I think it's going to happen, whether someone has autism or not. Lord.
Okay.
And I think you're doing a great thing. And I just wanted to say, I just want to applaud you for your journey, for doing all this and all the tests and all the things. the reason in my summit I spoke on what's the key most practitioners miss, because I've been trained by the MAPS doctors. I've been to all these trainings, and what I found, I mean, I remember leaning over to a doctor in the seat next to me and saying, "What do you do for drainage?" And he says, "I can't do everything. Someone else has to do that." I think drainage is the key, and there's like this drainage funnel, right? The colon, you've probably got him not constipated by now. He's probably pooping every day. So
Yeah.
that's the bottom of the funnel. You take that, kind of, it's like a plug, like a hair clog in your drain, in your sink. The water won't drain down, but if you take the plug out, then the water will drain. So that colon is the first plug area, but the next one is the liver and gallbladder. And a lot of times parasites can be in there. You've probably done a lot of that stuff. But then above that is in the funnel is the lymph and the cellular waste. So and then the brain is the top, right? So that's going to drain last. But I think that a lot of practitioners have missed that. I don't know if you've missed that in your journey, but I would say really put a lot of good focus on the liver, gallbladder. That's where I see almost everyone, even healthy adults, even myself, blocked or overwhelmed, let's say.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Definitely.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks for jumping on. How long does one do binders? How often? Oh, Roxy, good question. There's different binders for different things. Some binders will hold on to metals. So for instance, chlorella, spirulina, maybe barley grass. So if any of you listen to Medical Medium, he has those, detox things. So those green plants, they'll take the metals. And what that does is that takes a lot of burden off the kidneys, right? So if a child is peeing a lot and P-tox or wetting the bed, it's because the liver is really overwhelmed and it says, I can't handle this. I'm sending you guys over to the kidneys. So that chlorella will help with that issue and pull the metals out. The activated charcoal pulls anything, including medications and vitamins and all that stuff. And can be constipating for a lot of people. There's pectin, there's, I just love the Cellcore ones, biotoxin binder, because they're fulvic and humic acid based, and then they're functionalized with different things that are going to pull like lipopolysaccharides from, bacteria and with some of those really nasty mold and Lyme toxins. So that one's really great. And they have one called Virad Chem. It's for viruses, radiation, and other chemicals. It really pulls, the viruses, but also radiation. A lot of us have, radium in our water, and we have this stuff that gets stuck in the body, especially if we're not good eliminators. So if it's activated charcoal, I would do it at night away from everything. Chlorella, I would give any time with food. Some kids like it. Some kids love it. Some kids don't like it at all. And then the Cellcore ones you can give with food anytime. I usually have people give them in the morning and evening. And so that's kind of the general binder stuff. Currently working with a student who has recently started to punch herself in the jaw. She also bites her hand, but the team believes she does this when frustrated. Yeah, behavior analysis completed. We have asked parent to look into whether or not there are any dental issues, TMJ or wisdom teeth, any suggestions. So sounds like an older student. Yeah, there can, our nerves are a great repository for viruses. I've talked to people who've had dental work and anesthesia. I think it sits in our nerves. I've just had so many clients who have had anesthesia issues. So if your child's ever been anesthetized for any dental work or anything else, I think toxins in the nerves. So there's obviously something that's bothering your student right there, and they want to make it better, right? That hitting makes it feel better. And then again, that can become this habit and behavior, and then it can become more than just more than just trying to make him or her feel better. So I would definitely look into toxicity for that one, Lou. What about zeolite? Yeah, zeolite is another really great binder. There's different ones out there. It's more for metals. Could you please repeat the liver bile detox? Is it TUDCA from Cellcore and ox bile? It's TUDCA from Cellcore. That's like tauroundicilic acid, something like that. I'm not saying it right, but it's an acronym for a bile acid. I think it's the only water soluble bile acid that we know of. So that's from Cellcore. And then ox bile, I like to get it. There's a lot of places you can get it, but I like to make sure that the bile from the ox is an ox that lived in New Zealand and in a relatively clean environment. And Natural Factors is the company that I know that used to at least use that kind. So the idea is that the liver is overloaded, and the bile, actually, the liver produces bile and it helps in our digestion of fats, but it also holds on to all those toxins. And we want to make sure it's moving through. There's if we have cholestasis, it means standing still of the bile. And so a lot of times we're just overwhelmed, or there can be parasites in the bile ducts. And then the bile isn't moving, but mostly we're overwhelmed. Marta. Hi, Marta. Biotoxin binder is out of stock at the moment. Is there anything to replace it with? I think Virad Chem has 1/3 biotoxin binder in it. I think that's what the docs say. All right, I'm going to go back to my list. And oops, where was I? Because I skipped ahead. Okay, my child is 6, nonverbal autism. He started biting a few caregivers, mostly when told no. Also requests lots of pressure to head, face, jaw, mouth. What could this be? So we talked about, the seeking of sensory because it feels good. And yeah, I talked about that already. Biting, it's, I know this is you, Shrivita. I think it's a reaction to something she doesn't like, and she needs to be taught, like, that's again a retraining thing. It must be easier to bite than to do the proper thing, whatever that is, whatever you would do instead. And I think it's our human nature to find out that once we find something that bothers someone and we get a big reaction, we're like, oh, that really worked. So the brain is really smart. So that could be a piece of it. And about her wearing, doesn't want to wear her clothes and her shirt. So she'll keep it on when she's downstairs, but not upstairs. So obviously you've taught her that she needs to do that. I really think it's some sensory thing. And, imagine if you put a match on your finger, how would that feel? That might be what the clothes are feeling like to her. It might be, or something different, but something intense. So I think it's a sensory processing thing. And again, the more you get the toxic crap out, and for her, since she's a little bit older, really retraining the brain, like doing some brain, like re-networking of the brain. And I think maybe that brain harmony could help, but neurofeedback could help. The NMT, the neuromodulation that I do, that can help. Let's see. Strategies to get through puberty. Well, there's a lot of hormones raging and hormones changing. So this is a time of great change. So some kids actually settle down during this time, and some kids like kind of flare in behaviors. So again, it's disruption of things in the body. And I would work on getting the toxins out more than anything, and work with a practitioner specifically for the hormonal stuff. So I think you need directed help from someone who's good with that. I know Dr. Cartzenell, Jerry Cartzenell I did a thing with him, an interview with him on puberty, but there's a lot of good autism doctors who work with puberty. What may be causing my son to wake during the night and talk to himself for hours? So many things. so many so many things. I can't even, like, there's all these things are flooding into my head. So definitely neurochemical imbalances. So I don't know, what you do to help him sleep, but I would try sleep remedies like melatonin and GABA. There's one I have, it's called, darn it, it's from Source Naturals. It's called Serene, Serene. I think it's called Serene Theanine. And it's a combination of like theanine, B6, melatonin, a few different things. And sometimes I'll take one of those at night and it just zonks me right out. And you could take one in the middle of the night too. He could be really sensitive, hearing things. Something can wake him up. I think that some kids, I know this might not be a popular thing to say, but I think that some kids on the autism spectrum, my personal belief is that it's hard to be in a physical body that's loaded with toxins. And so they're still like a little bit out of their body, or still connected to whatever place we come from before we become humans. I call it, oneness. I believe that these are my own personal beliefs. You don't have to believe the same thing, but I believe there's one thing and we all come from that one thing. Like, it's a little bit of a Buddhist philosophy, or God, or whatever. We all come from that. And they're still a little bit attached back in that energetically, because we're more than just our physical bodies. We're also energetic and emotional bodies. So I think that I've had clients who are not kids, but I've had kids also who they're speaking to some beings in other dimensions, or, we might think of them as imaginary friends, but I think they're really, in their mind, they're really connected to something else, and they're, that might be going on. There might be this, I think, in our dream world too, when we go to sleep, something happens with our mind and we go somewhere else. So, different states of consciousness. So I'm thinking that, definitely neurochemical imbalance going on. What strategy can be used when my son is having a complete meltdown and he seems unable to reach when trying to get him to calm himself down? So first of all, I would try to not have the meltdown, because I think once in the meltdown, it's like it kind of has to run its course in a way. It's like, I remember one time when my son, he was about 9, and he had just had this big tantrum for the littlest thing. And he bit me and he was struggling. And when it was over, I could tell he was out of it. He came out of it. And I was talking to him about what happened. And I said, it's not okay that you bite me. He said, I didn't bite you. And I realized it just really hit me that he is like out of his mind, he's not in a front brain, a cognitive way. He can't talk to me cognitively because he's in his reptilian brain. He's in his fight or flight brain, and communication wasn't possible. So sometimes I think when the meltdown happens, it just has to happen, and you have to give space for that. And also, we need to express our emotions. It's actually a relief to the body to get that stuff out. So he seems unable to reach when trying to get him to calm down himself. So I wouldn't, who's really great with this? Samantha Moe. I interviewed her in my last summit, and she has a program called Mad to Glad. And she talks a lot about these behaviors and leading up to them, and then what to do with them. So I would use her as a resource. She's an amazing person. And I personally feel like we need to let our emotions out. And I get it that if it's just a small thing, it shouldn't be happening. So I would try to prevent that in the first place. And again, dig in deep and find out what's creating that. That was for Leisha. Okay, this is someone who says in the email that I sent, you've described most of the behaviors that my daughter does. Has little toys in her hands, stimming, etc. Biting her hand when overwhelmed, excited, happy, etc. Laughing so hard she's almost crying for no apparent reason. He writes parasites or toxins, or yeast, microbes. Asking me the same thing over and over when she's already received an answer numerous times. So that's a development thing, something stuck in the brain, right? It's not developed. I had a client like this who would keep saying the same thing again and again. And the more toxins we pulled out, the better he got with this, not doing it anymore. Moves around constantly. Again, discomfort in the body, I think, when trouble sitting still. I think there's this, how do you, when something's in you and you feel uncomfortable, what are you going to do? You're going to move and try and make it feel better. I've also had kids who have felt like there's crawling things in their body, like parasite, like literally. So there's just discomfort. Quick to get upset, but also quick to get over it. So there are some personalities that are like that. Anything I can learn to minimize these behaviors would be amazing, especially the biting the hand. So I would do redirects. Sorry, that's a new one, a new question. So, I guess, for me, it's always detox, get the stuff out. And so the body works better. Let's see, Holly on the East Coast in New York. Where can I find a functional medicine doctor for my daughter? I don't know where to begin with her. She has many challenging behaviors. So far, we've only tried removing dairy with no improvement. So you might need time on that. I would remove gluten as well, because that's a big offender. And I would keep going and removing things because it might not just be dairy and gluten. And I don't know where you are in New York, but I just got off a call with my colleague, Zendi Moldenauer. She's in upstate New York, Arbor Health. And she works a lot with kids with PANS and PANDAS, but, she's a nurse practitioner for developmental and psychiatric. So I would check her out. Who else in New York City? There's Mary Coyle. She does homotoxicology, which is getting the stuff, opening up and getting the stuff out of the body. And I can't think of anyone else off the top of my head. Bach, B-O-C-K. What's his first name? He's in upstate New York. He wrote the book, Allergies, ADHD, Autism, and Asthma, the 4 A's of childhood. His last name is Bach. Can't think of his first name. Weblor, my son has bad eyesight. Oh, right. With a reading of 10 and 12 in each eye. Oh, that's like a diopter reading. However, we noticed that despite new prescription glasses, so he keeps pressing on his eyes. There are developmental optometrists. I don't know if there's any near you, but what's the website? Look for either ophthalmologists or optometrists. Kids developmental. I have it bookmarked somewhere, but I don't want to go look for it right now. There are developmental optometrists, and there's a listing on a website. It's like a something.org. It's, letters, acronyms of the organization. So I would look for that. And then the pressure thing on his eyes could be sensory. And the way he looks through his eyes, I really feel like toxins, and there's something like he's trying to normalize his vision somehow, right? So there's something in the way. So
that's exactly what's happening. Yeah, exactly. He's the glasses. When we got it, this is a second prescription. So when he got the second one, he could actually he can be without it. So definitely it's helping. He loves the glasses. Takes it, puts it on. It's like part of him now, but he's still always pressing down on the side of his eye. Sorry, I'm just gonna go on video so you can see what I'm doing.
Okay. It's not showing your picture. There you are. Okay.
Yeah. So he goes like that and presses down on the side of his eye. He's trying to look through whatever is left of the little tiny bit of the eye. He
Mhm.
does that with both eyes, and he still
Mhm.
has the glasses on, as if he's still struggling to see. But
Yep.
they think it's sensory, but I don't think so. I think there must be something underlying, because he's definitely looking through the glasses, but he's still like his vision. He's still trying to get some input. I don't know what it is really. He
Yeah, it
does that
sounds to me
all the
like
time.
he's still trying to optimize his vision, right? By
Yes.
moving that, by actually moving the eyeball. So
Yes. Yes. Exactly.
to me, there's something in there. I'll tell you another weird story. So years ago, I was at an autism conference and I met Carrie Rivera, who is, she has a
I've heard of her.
protocol for getting parasites out, right? The chlorine dioxide. And so I started using her protocol. I interviewed her in one of my summits, and I started using it, and I was like, oh, I'm just going to put this stuff in my eye. And I swear I was doing it like every 10, 15 minutes, because I was just like, oh, I want to see what happens. And at some point I pulled this little, it
Like
looked
a
like
worm.
about the size of a half a grain of rice out of my eye. I was like, whoa, where did that
Mm,
come from? I don't know what it was. I didn't save it, but I just think that we can have things in there. I think with someone mentioned seizures, and I had a girl who had seizures, and I kept getting parasites in the brain. So I feel like there's parasites in our other orifices, in our other areas, not just in our gut. The doctors at Cellcore Biosciences will say that if you do some nasal irrigation with some of their herbal products, they actually see stringy things coming out. It's not your snot. It's like actual. So I'm suspicious about that. And I would put the chlorine dioxide in my own eyes, but I wouldn't put any of the Cellcore products, that are anti-parasitic in there. I would use them systemically if you haven't already. So
Okay, so I should try that protocol, because I've tried it when he was much younger, not for the eyes anyway, but I knew about Kerry when he was much younger, and I tried that with him for a little bit, and it did
well,
help.
I don't know if that's going to be the solution, but I think that if you go systemic, like the Cellcore stuff goes systemic, they have one called Para 1, which is Mimosa pudica seed. It gets the big organisms out of the gut. They have one called Para 2, which is herbs that go systemic and help to get certain organisms out. And then they have one called Para 3, which is a liquid. Para 3 is the one that's been getting the nasal stuff and really clearing people's sinuses. It's a thought, and it's a process, so you can check that out and see what makes sense to you to do.
Okay.
But I would also try to look for a developmental optometrist
Yeah.
who, might be able to help from that. You
Yeah.
approach it from different angles, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Roxy, Mad to Glad, Samantha Moe is the name of the woman who put that together. Yeah. You're welcome. Thanks, you guys, for saying Kenneth Bach. That's the upstate New York person. The names of the other two doctors in New York, Mary Coyle, Coyle. I think she has Child Wellness Center, or if you just look up Mary Coyle homo toxicology, she's in New York City. And the other one is Zendi, Zendi, Moldenauer, Mouldenhauer, maybe. It's Arbor Health. And I want to say she's Buffalo, but she's upstate somewhere. Oh, thanks, Lou, for he put superioreye.com for vision stuff. So doing parasite cleanse orally, will it clean parasites from all the body? Yeah, it depends on the herbs you use. Did doing the protocol with Carrie help your son? Carmen wants to know. You Webalor and Carmen Lucia, you guys can have your own little conversation there. I'm going to go on with the questions.
Luminara, that Parents Active for Vision Education, that PAVE, they changed their name to superioreye.com now, and that's where you can plug in to find behavioral and developmental optometrists.
Great, thank you. Also, one of the people I interviewed in my most recent summit in May is Dr. Randy Schulman I think she's out of Connecticut, Schulman, and she, you could probably look on her website. She might have some resources too. She did really an awesome presentation and just had so much to say and to give. And she said, with the vision therapies and stuff that the kids can do, first of all, they can improve their vision by up to 30%. I don't think she said that in the interview. She told me that personally. But that, you know, visual input, auditory input, and body input are so coordinated, and that by working on the vision, you can work with a lot of that other stuff. So it might help sensory and sensory motor stuff, sensory processing stuff. Okay, let me get through the questions. I'm hoping to be done not too much longer. I'm going to go to Facebook and take some questions. Hello from Europe. I'd like to ask about my son, autism, ADHD, speech delay, mental delay, sleep problems. This is Bernarda. Constant hunger, I think parasites when I think constant hunger. Sleep problems could also be parasites, but could be a lot of things. Biggest issue is he's so shy. When he sees others go to school and see the teacher, he collapses, hides, throws himself on the floor, becomes very aggressive when someone approaches him. Might take up to an hour to go into the classroom. High anxiety. So again, I would think parasites. I think toxins. He is also that everywhere, right? Yeah, that high level of anxiety. I would think toxins, huge toxins, neurotoxins. Tried to calm him, speak to him. We try almost everything. Now, remember, when you try to calm him and speak to him, he's in his reptilian brain. He's in his fight or flight. So we're not in the upper cognitive area. So it's going to be really hard to get him to even hear what's coming in. There's something from, I want to say Brain Gym, that if you put a hand on the back of the head here, so kind of where you're cradling the skull, and then you put one on the front here, it helps. Somehow it helps with the electricity in the brain, and it helps to get your child more out of the reptilian brain and come more into the cognitive, you know, the higher level functioning. So that could be helpful in those situations when he's like just all over the place, aggressive or, you know, super anxious. That might help. Let's see, try to calm him, speak to him. We try almost everything, bribe him to be more harsh than all the love, and we still have trouble. You know, like I said, it's because he's not really hearing you in a rational way. He's very aware of things around him. He's not in the autism world. I help him with everything, but only this behavior and aggressive behavior seem to progress even more. Watch and love your work, but our finance will not allow me to book a session with you. Okay, well, thank you. He's very late. I co-sleep with my son so I can get some sleep. This is the reason I didn't join you on Zoom. Oh, that's totally fine, Bernarda. No worries. Yeah, so again, that brain harmony could be really helpful. Some kind of really calming listening thing. You want to get him out of his fight or flight. So it sounds like he's stuck in fight or flight, and it sounds like doing a detox protocol, like getting the toxins out. And it could be metal. It could be so many things. What I'm planning to do next year is early next year is put together a program. So people who can't work with me personally, because I can't work with everyone personally, so you can actually follow step by step a protocol of how to open the drainage and how to get things out and how to help with different things. And yeah, every parent I talk to, every session I have, I think of new things to add to it, and new tips and new parenting things. So it might get really big, but anyway, I'll do as many tips as I can. Anxiety, same things, all that I've said before for the anxiety. Okay, 2 adult sons, Ola. 2 adult sons with autism. They have many issues, including speech and proper communication. My main issue for my elder son is sleep. He has a major sleep problem, which affects his mood and concentration. We tried melatonin, but did not really help. I'm not sure what you mean by major sleep problem. If he doesn't sleep, if he doesn't fall asleep, if he doesn't stay asleep, GABA amino acids can be helpful. And again, detoxing, and there might be some inflammation. One of the things that helps, this is for everybody, if your kids wake up in the night, it could be that like at 3 a.m, it could be a liver issue, but also it could be that a blood sugar sustainability issue. So I'll sometimes advise parents to give your kids, give your child protein snack before bed. And so that way it breaks down protein or fat. It breaks down slower than a carbohydrate, and then it'll sustain the sugar in the blood for a longer period of time. Because if we run out of blood sugar and all of a sudden the body wakes up because we get cortisol, right? And we get this cortisol push from our adrenals, and cortisol, it feeds the brain because we don't have enough food for the brain, but it also wakes us up. So I'm not sure if, Ola, I'm not sure if that answers your question, but those are some strategies. Oh, he can't fall asleep. Again, relaxation techniques. I sometimes will listen to a guided meditation. There's something called yoga nidra. It's yoga and then nidra, Nidra. And it's this process where you're led by a really super calm voice, usually with really nice music in the background, to you go through every body part and you just pay attention to every body part and relax every body part. And that works really well. It's just a technique, but there are different meditation kind of techniques. Plus he's up at night, I think you said. Yeah. Ola, see if it correlates with the full moon. So sometimes we just have the full moon. So sometimes on the full moon, I see a lot of behaviors from kids, like they're more hyper, they can't sleep, things like that. I would suspect parasites. The anxiety, again, I spoke to that with amino acids and brain calming type stuff. Go back to Zoom. The multimedia experience here. Esther, Why Your Child's Hyperactive is a book I used about 40 years ago. Sometimes if I visualize my hand on his hand, that calms him down. That's an awesome energy technique. There are a lot of energy techniques. Let me give you another one. Because our kids respond, they're so sensitive energetically, they respond really well to energetic techniques. So I like to do this thing called body sweeping. So when your child is lying down, especially at night, and Ola, you might want to try this. And you have to have your mind completely on your child. Don't be thinking about what you're making for dinner the next day or something, or what you're going to have for breakfast, or, oh my God, I can't wait till my kid falls asleep because then I'm going to go do this. So be completely present with your child. They're laying down, and then just sweep from the top of their head all the way down their chest, all the way down through their legs. And in your mind, you're imagining you're sweeping all the negative energy out of their body. And you can do it on the front side and on the back side. Let me tell you, this feels so good. If you guys, as a parent, get someone to do this to you, you'll feel how good it feels. And so you sweep all the way down to the feet. And then I like to grab all the energy in my hands and then have a little trash bin and put it in the trash bin and make sure you close the lid so that energy doesn't get swirling up in the room anymore. And I know it sounds out there, but this stuff is real, so you're just pulling their energy off and getting rid of it. And your intention is to bring calm and to take all that scattered negative stuff off. Okay. Thanks for that, Esther. That's a really great tip to imagine just calming, or you can imagine, there you are, or you can imagine putting a hand on their heart, or, wherever their calming place is. Okay, Shelley, did you cover what testing you typically do to find what specific toxicity they're dealing with? So I use muscle testing with my clients. So I just look for specific things, but there are definitely diagnostic tests. Great Plains labs, you usually have to be working with a practitioner for almost any of the testing labs. I like Great Plains. They have an oat test, organic acid, so that'll tell you different things about neurotransmitters and function, how different areas of the body are functioning, and give you information about what potential pathogens your child has. And then they also have a glyphosate test and other toxin tests. So they have a bunch of them. Oh, Esther, I meant visualize my hand on his head, not hand. I think it'll work anywhere, whatever works best. Can you give me a sleep remedy for a 2-year-old? A sleep remedy. Again, the body sweeping can help. There could be melatonin. I would use a small amount, maybe 1 milligram, 2 milligrams. They have dissolvable capsules in the health food store. I can't remember the brand, but they're like little ones that taste good and they just dissolve in your mouth. There are a bunch of sleep remedies. I think BioRay has one called Sleepy or something similar. They might have changed the name. So that's a good one. I love their products. They're herbal. And it's actually sickeningly sweet. It's too sweet for me. But kids would love it. There's no reason not to take it. GABA is always a good one. I have chewable GABA capsules from, I can't remember, it's Pharma GABA, and it's not remembering the brand. It could be, I think it's Natural Factors. They're big tablets, but you chew them and they taste good. I think we should talk. I'm a parent turned health coach. Okay, I'll read that later, Shelley. There's a good app called Calm that tells stories and music and meditations. That's great. Thanks, Roxy. There's also one called Insight Timer, and it has a ton of guided meditations and has kids stories, and it has nighttime stories, which I just found. All right. By hand biting. All right, we talked about that one. 10-year-old son doesn't understand routine and doesn't seem to get the connection that we do things every day at similar times or certain activities. So this, I would say, it's a developmental lag, right? He's not there yet developmentally. How can I help as to not always fight to try to get him to do things or to recognize the connection of routine? I find this so exhausting. So Nomi, the first thing is to know that he's not there yet. Like he's just not that coordinated in his brain. And I don't know if he works with therapists on this stuff or not, but sometimes people have a visual chart of, pictures when we're going to do what. Just think that you're teaching a 2-year-old again to do this, and to have the compassion and patience to go slower, because that's what he's capable of. And I would say probably there's some neural inflammation and toxicity, and I would work on that. Catherine, when startled around the age of 7, this is an adult, my mind couldn't seem to process fast enough, would let out an involuntary escalating shriek and lose conscious and unconscious thought for a few seconds. It didn't seem to make anything worse, but it may help someone else if you talk about it. After reading your info, I'm guessing this was because my primitive reflexes were not integrated. That's quite possible. It was like a reset switch because of the electrical activity was unbalanced. Oh, she's asking questions. Am I on the right track, or is this indicative of something more sinister, or is this an absent seizure? So I would say anything like a reset like that in the brain. It's obviously due to electrical activity, right? The electrical activity is not consistent, or not maybe like there's a break in it somehow. And I would suspect metals, and I would suspect something in the way. So again, I would look at the detox route. And thank you, Catherine, for bringing that up. And it's not, it wasn't painful or harmful to you, but for some kids, it's a sign that there's that brain activity that is just a little bit out of whack. From Rebecca, how do you help a 7-year-old boy who throws tantrums most of the time at home? Highly anxious, very intense, hits his younger siblings for no apparent reason, gets out of control. Can't talk to him, rationalize with him, of course, because he's in fight or flight, and he's in his reptilian brain. So this is Samantha Moe. No calming techniques help him in the moment. Again, that one might. And there's also another one. Let me get my little naked girl doll here. I know this is a weird little thing, but here's my little girl. I have all the organs marked and stuff. So sometimes I use this with clients. So what you would do is have your child sit or stand in front of you, cross their arms, and then you'd come up behind them and hold them. It's like makes them feel safe and secure. And you can even put a hand on their forehead, right? So you're like hugging them from all around, and it somehow lets the body relax. So that's a possibility while, you know, a tantrum's going on, if you can manage that. Or what I would say is practice it before the tantrums happen, before the aggression happens, before the anxiety happens. Whole family's afraid of what he would do next. So definitely get him checked out for toxicity, and you probably need to do some neurotransmitter rebalancing. He might have a lot of glutamate, which GABA might help with that. Okay, Carmen Lucia. Okay, getting stuck with speech when beginning to say a sentence, has a hard time getting the first word to come out. Once he gets the first word, he's able to complete his full sentence. Sometimes a long sentence or two together, but it seems like getting the first word out takes a lot of effort, and like a stutter at the beginning. So this is, I think of this as that freeway that's gone down from 7 lanes to 1 lane, and it's not quite getting out, and then it breaks through. And I would say this is a developmental stage. Like, I know you're doing a lot of detox and a lot of the cell core stuff and parasite stuff. So I would say he's probably going to move through this. And it's just a stage in either development or a stage in going backward, right? Because things are moving around in the body. You said this is new and a bit concerning because he's currently the process of improving his speech. However, he's having difficulties that he wasn't having before to get this first word or two out. Yeah, so my thought is that it's probably a stage, or something is a toxicity that you're moving through. I think any change you see is showing that things are moving. So I would be heartened to think that this is a stage and it will pass too, and to not stay stuck on that, because I think as parents, when we stay stuck on something, it helps our kids to stay even more stuck on it. So, you know, to know that it's going to pass. Let's see. I saw on your Facebook page that you have some unique communication cards. How do I get this in the UK? Okay, yes, I do have unique communication cards, and I'll pull up a deck here, show you. I don't have one open, hang on. Okay, I'm gonna open one because I didn't have these open. So I'll just show you real quick. This is my card deck. It's called the Autism Expressions card deck, and they're just different expressions on here that I had. I was inspired by some books I was reading, mainly Ito in Autism Land was a book I read, and I was like, it was his 13-year-old who wrote about how he was really feeling, even when people were making assumptions about what was going on. So they're just little cards like, please help me so my body, please help fix me so my body works better. This one says, hold off your judgments and see that I am a unique, intelligent being, a body in a body that is not working well. So they're just these different expressions. Banging my head makes me feel better. So let's see, what's this one? Please see me with your soul, then you can really understand what I'm going through. So just kind of asking for compassion. So my original plan was these would be like tarot cards, and your child would just pick, oh, I need to move my body because it's uncomfortable inside. But people use them all different ways. So these you can get, they're $30, and I'm going to just put the link in as soon as I pull it up. I wasn't prepared for that. And then you can buy them there. And then there is a shipping cost to international. It's kind of expensive, but excuse me, because it costs a lot to ship there.
It's okay. How many cards are in the pack?
52.
52. Okay.
Yep, there. Did I? Oops. I sent it to Lou. I'm going to send it to everyone now. Here we go. Okay.
Lovely. Thanks.
Thanks for asking about that. And if you get some parents together, you know, I could ship them all at once. The shipping cost would be a lot less. What do I think of coffee to calm them down? Well, Esther, I'm not so sure about that. I've never used that as a strategy, and I can say I don't have any experience with it, but I can say if you do a coffee enema, I don't think it's going to necessarily rev them up because it's about stimulating the liver. So that's different. So I don't know. What about EMF, which causes hyperactivity in adults and children? What about 5G? On Google, it tells things to buy for house and wearable stuff. Yeah, that's what that lessemf.com has stuff like that on there. The research shows that these different Wi-Fi's and 5G affects our cells and our proteins and how we have a cell membrane and how these proteins work, letting things in it shouldn't, and breaking down proteins. I don't have all the research off the top of my head. Nick Pineault, Pinneault, he's the guy who wrote Non-Tinfoil Guide to EMFs. I would say go to him. I don't know a ton about it, but I think that EMFs affect a lot of things in our body. My son maybe started toe walking at 2.5. He walked properly starting at 13 months. Any holistic treatments you can recommend? He's almost 6 years old. He's wearing AFOs to keep heels down and keep range in his feet. Yeah, I would just definitely keep the range in his feet. It could be a reflex thing. So I would look at reflex integration, and it could be a toxicity thing. So I would look at all the strategies I talked about for detoxing. Okay. Okay, from Paula, we're almost done. Currently supporting a child who's scratching other children, comes out of the blue. So for an example, he'll be hugging a child to say thank you. Then he claws with both hands and has caused some nasty scratches. I've tried pressure activities with him at intervals throughout the day, given him alternative materials to scratch, and have also put gloves on him. This doesn't hurt the other child, but he still seeks to scratch and at times pull hair instead. Can you please give me any information how it sounds like a teacher or therapist that you are, Paula. Again, a child tries something, finds they get a reaction, and then, oh, well, this gets this reaction. I'll keep doing this. That's one idea. And I think you're doing great things. But I think it's a sensory processing, or I think it's, brain, something in the brain, right, in the way. It's like a wrench in the gear. And I'm not sure there's anything you can do as a therapist that you're not already doing. I would look for you also to Samantha Mo. She might have some strategies, and her reasoning behind what she does is so amazing. I really like it. She's just all around amazing person, and has some really great strategies. But I would, get the parents to detox the child. From maybe why problems going to sleep? Why wake up from sleep? So we talked about that. And what to do. From Sherry, who signed One Tired Mom. What to do for my 8-year-old ADHD, mildly autistic, food sensitive, meat texture intolerant, high anxiety, seizure, and tic disorder child. Goodness, that's a terrible list. He's actually a really sweet kid, super smart. He reacts like he feels overwhelmed by having to do anything from getting clothes on to eating meals to, heaven forbid, schoolwork. His response is whining, wailing, running, hiding, generally melting down. I've tried taking pressure off by reducing environmental stimuli. Good for you. Teaching him deep breathing. He hasn't got the hang of it yet. Homeschooling, feeding him, medicating him. The list goes on and on. Yes, he's much calmer and not so oppositional, but he's still lacking basic life skills. So, it sounds to me, Sherry, we haven't covered this yet, but it sounds a little bit like maybe some mitochondrial dysfunction is going on. So if everything seems like a big effort, I would get his mitochondrial function checked. So if we, what I find a lot in the kids is one of the key things I check now is how are their mitochondria functioning? And there can be a lot of toxins that are preventing the mitochondria in the cells from making energy, excuse me. So what happens, our brain and liver has like 20, 30,000 mitochondria. So if these guys, let's say they're operating at only 60%, you know, what's going to happen? You got 60% power in your factory. You got 60% power in your factory, and then you don't have a lot of energy to do anything. You can barely, you know, you're just getting through. So what I would check is mitochondria. I'm not sure, you didn't say anything about low muscle tone at all, but that could be another thing. So if parents out there, if you're feeling like your kids aren't motivated to do things, or it's just really a struggle to get them to. She also says his executive functioning is pretty slow in some areas, and it seems he lives in sympathetic activation. And maybe my question is, why does asking him for output cause panic? Any thoughts would be good. So I feel like asking for more when he already feels like he's at his upper limit is like stressful. So that puts him in sympathetic mode. So I think the root there might be mitochondria. And that's not going to immediately solve everything, but that's going to, when you help his mitochondria function better, that's going to help everything overall. For EMF and grounding, check the earthing movie on YouTube. That's great, Maria. Thanks for that resource. Cheryl, who's a grandma, has a son with autism, and her daughter, the mother, is opposed to curing or recovering anything that's like that. And I would just want to say that I don't even, curing, that doesn't mean anything to me, but recovering, what I'm doing is, my goal is not to change who your child is. My goal is to help them function better in their body, which then that looks like changing behavior. That looks like different behaviors, just change. I see kids like come out of their fog. They pay more attention. They get off the iPad. They have less anxiety. They're able to function with other people. So, but they're still who they are, right? They're still their basic personality and who they are. And we're not trying to change that at all. So, so Cheryl, that's what I would say to that. Let's see. My daughter, let's see, what does she want? What's her question? So she also doesn't see recovering or keeping kids, appreciating kids the way they are as opposing. She appreciates her grandson for the gifts he brings to the world. She wants to help them if they suffer from physiological, neurological things. I'm with you. So he goes to skills classes in OT. She doesn't think of that as problematic, but it seems anything more than that, she's completely resistant to. So I would just, you and I are thinking the same, Cheryl, and I just want to help the body function better so that there's better strategies for dealing with life. The person is who they are. My son spits, not sure why he suddenly started doing that. Also always putting his ear in my belly, very anxious, wants to do it. Also does humping. This is from Melanie. And I asked him to control his body. So we talked about the humping and putting that in a private space. And spitting could be he learned a new thing and he wants to practice it. It could be he got a rise out of you. It could be a lot of things. It could be something uncomfortable in his mouth. Without more context, it's really hard for me to say. And putting his ear on your belly, maybe that's comforting, it's like womb-like, it's like we're back in the womb. And again, with the anxiety, we talked about that a lot, toxicity, amino acids. From Harsan Deep, my son usually wants pressure on his cheek, chest, stomach. I'm not sure why. He's not in pain. So we talked about seeking sensory already. It feels good. He only okay. He only wants pressure from the forehead, and the dad can't use his hand. Yeah, we talked about that, and I would also think maybe there's pressure on the inside, and that helps to feel, that particular way helps to feel better. So I would think neural inflammation And you guys who with kids with this neural inflammation, one thing you can always try, I learned this from Dr. Kartzenell, is you do a therapeutic trial with ibuprofen or Advil, or I don't know, whatever you call it in your country, not Tylenol, ibuprofen, and you give your child a little bit. It's an anti-inflammatory, and if they've got brain inflammation, and they're like doing this head stuff or whatever, and you give the ibuprofen, and you see that behaviors come down, there's brain inflammation, right? And then that's your target. That's what you need to look at. Okay, Michael, our daughter 3, nonverbal, refused to take her to a traditional doctor. Okay, same. We answered this already. Similar things in my email: holding toys, tantrums, crying, laughing for no reason. It's almost like she sees something we don't. I recently put up a vision board, and now she comes to it and stares at it or laughs and talks to it. So I would think that connection to whatever other realms or imaginary play. He says it's almost like she's playing with angels. Why? I mean, it could be. It could be. She barely sleeps. Yeah, so that's some neurotransmitter imbalance. We talked a lot about that. I would have that checked out. Obsessive behavior, again, that can be related to brain inflammation, like pandas won't sit still. We talked about that. Picky eating. Yeah, zinc is always a good thing for picky eating. Let's see, it's all new to us. So listen to the whole thing. You probably have already. Mary, 15-year-old daughter with worsening OCD. So again, think brain inflammation. Also has lots of anxiety, repetitive thoughts. She gets stuck on a thought or events or interactions at school or camp that happened years ago, obsesses over her feelings for days. I would really think brain inflammation, pandas flare. I hate to say antibiotics, but that could be a course of action. IVIG, which is intravenous immunoglobulin, and also low dose antigen, low dose immunotherapy. Dr. Darren Ingalls is really well spoken in that. He's in Southern California. So is Dr. Karima Harani. I've heard her give several presentations on LDA, LDI, low dose allergen, low dose immunotherapy. So in this pandas cases is brain inflammation. There's autoimmunity going on because something in the brain looks a lot like a microbe we've encountered, and the brain's gone a little haywire. So that low dose immunotherapy helps with that. From Carolyn, my question: should a child with autism and PANS be vaccinated with a COVID vaccine? Thoughts about whether or not they can handle the flu vaccine? Well, think about, I'm not going to tell you yes or no, Carolyn, but think about what is in the vaccine. Think about, is a COVID vaccine tested? No. Has it been tested over time? No. What else is in it? How toxic is your child, and can they handle much more? Just ask yourself those questions, and I think you'll come up with an answer. From Diana, my child has all the behaviors you're speaking about: tactile sensitivity, anxiety, overreaction, etc., etc. He is now 8. Over the time, all this decreased after removing dairy. Oh, here's the dairy one. Also had good reaction to adding omega-3. I'm in the phase where I'm trying chlorella and castor oil PEP. Nevertheless, I'm not sure I'm doing the right thing. Can it be that during such a treatment, his anxiety can increase? Should I do it more over the holidays than within the weekends and on Wednesdays? So yes, anxiety can increase when you're doing chlorella and castor oil and omega-3s, because we're always letting go of toxins. And what you need probably to do is more binders with that. Okay, Winifred, when my son is told no, he wants something really bad. He has a bad temper tantrum, tearing up everything in the house. Yeah, I know this one. Try and cut it off at the pass before it happens. And I think you want to probably look at some neurotransmitter balancing and probably a parasite issues with all that anger. There's a lot of calming things: GABA, vitamin B6, fish oil, the omega-3s is very calming. So I would pump up that stuff. I don't know what you're already doing. And then yeah, I would try and stop it before it happens. And I don't know how able to talk to him or cognitive he can be, but explaining about not getting your way. I don't know what level he's at. Have a nonstop clapping problem. And you have okay. I think he has a nonstop clapping problem. When my son is told, okay. Oh, it's repeated. I think that's a stimmy thing. It might be he wants to hear sound. It might be he wants to feel how that feels, and redirecting. And again, a toxicity thing. I know I always go back to that, but I think that's so key and so important. I'm gonna go back to Facebook, see if there's anything there. Ola, yes, back to Ola. He reacts to the full moon. There you go. There's a clue. Parasites. Best kind of GABA, pharma GABA. Dawn. And I think Source Naturals, or maybe it's Natural Factors is the one I use. Lajam, hey, nice to see you. How do you check for toxicity? Can you recommend a doctor in New Jersey? I think you've already worked with Dr. Newbrander. I can't think of anyone else off the top of my head. Check for toxicity through the Great Plains tests. You need to work with a practitioner. Gassan says, hi there, my son is 27, autism, keeps moving in the room and holding and lifting things. He doesn't sit down for toxicity. We talked a lot about that. Go back and listen to the, listen to the recording at certain points. I think it's really toxic. Look, most everything comes down to toxicity and parasites, I think. And parasites are there because it's a hospitable environment because the toxins are there. Let me see. Cheryl says, stimming question. My son is 17 with Down syndrome and PDD-NOS. He rocks while he walks forcefully. And while he's rocking, he is bulging his eyes and usually looking to the side. He can come out of it if I can get his attention and redirect, but he just goes right back to it. Any help for this? Also, is there any way to help a kiddo from constantly having his hands down his pants? We just say hands and he will stop for a bit and then go back to it. Any ideas? Again, it's kind of a habit. We keep him on the anti-inflammatory maybe diet. I would look at drainage and detoxing, Cheryl, for sure. And we talked a lot about that already. Akbar says, my son, 4 years old, has sometimes aggressive behavior, also like holding to newspaper in his hand, plucking leaves and flowers, chewing hair. I think we already talked about that. I don't recognize your name on the Zoom, but I think you asked about that. And again, I would think anytime there's aggressive behavior, I would always think neurotransmitter imbalance. I would think too many excitotoxins in the brain and not enough calming factors. And there could be some genetic components in there too, but environmental toxicity and parasites are really contribute to that. Okay, Lilia. I'm a parent of a 6.5-year-old daughter who has had many interventions in preventative care as a relentless effort on my part to seek out people in Austin, Texas that could help us. Good for you, Lilia. Awesome. Congratulations. It's an effort. My daughter is so high functioning that when I read the autism behavior, I can identify behaviors I've noticed my daughter expresses in different ways and depending on the context, the situation. I've also read the pandas behaviors. Grateful for the intervention she's had. Sorry, this is the first time I'm reading this email. It came in late. Also have very big challenge of still not knowing exactly what it all is that has impacted our lives. So Austin, I'm thinking mold just off the bat, and maybe Wi-Fi. There's so many healthcare providers who have, in my opinion, a limited understanding. Okay. Still have so much to learn. Continue to advocate for my daughter as a single parent, a widow. It's a very big challenge. Count my blessings every day. I think you're doing an amazing job, Lilia. And I know you've done a lot. And like I said, that the key I think a lot of people miss is the drainage part. So I would work on liver, gallbladder, and then even more detox higher up in the lymph. Okay. Whew. I I think we got through all the questions. Wow, thanks you guys who are still here. You're amazing. This has gone much longer than I thought. And whoo, okay. So some of you are working with me.
Sorry, can I ask a quick question? Is there the drainage bits, is there any video that you've done on it on your
There
site?
is. Let me get it in the links. I have to pull it up. I wasn't ready for all this.
Yeah, it'd be helpful to just go take a look. Yeah.
Oh shoot, you know what? That's, where did I put it? I did an interview in my summit on drainage, and let me see if I can, I don't think it's on the website. I think I had it. Here we go. Yeah, I just offered it in my like Black Friday email specials. And here's the link to it right here. Free to watch. It's on the website. So yeah, I think, I can't remember. I think Maria Rickard-Hong is interviewing me in that. And then I also did an interview with Trudy Scott in the Anxiety Summit. So if any of you purchased that, it's just like the same, but slightly different. She asked me lots of different questions. It's more research-based, but anyway, that should give you some hints about the drainage. My interview with Trudy was later. So like I kind of had it down a little bit better, but I'm going to put one other page in the links. You know what? I'll put these in the Facebook. Sorry, guys. This is a page on my website where it talks about when I do like an assessment, I give like a body biomap report, but this goes through all the things I look at. So this is, even if you never work with me, these are the things that you should have your practitioners looking at, like mitochondria, methylation, like certain things that I feel like are really important and in drainage and able. I look at mitochondria and methylation because when we get both of those working better for the body, it's like you've just upped your factory output, you know, from like 50% up to 75, 80%. So, and hopefully up to 100%. So we want the body to be working at 100%, all these dysfunctional pieces, so that the body, you have more energy to do everything. So that's why I focus on those things. And then of course the drainage and detox. And I've just found, like, since I started focusing on the drainage, even in the last year, just really a lot faster changes. And I can tell you also what's created faster changes in kids is after my summit, I had a few of my clients go on the brain harmony, the safe and sound protocol, the listening thing that works with the brain waves. And those people have made, you know, quicker progress. Like I've been surprised. I'm actually really excited about the brain harmony stuff. So, so those are things that I've seen people kind of move faster with, because one of the things that Carol Garner Houston from Brain Harmony explained to me is when you make the brain waves in a way that are more coherent, what happens is the brain is able to dump the toxins that are in the way. So it's really working with dumping the toxins, but then you want to have the rest of the body open so they actually come out. So yeah. So everyone, thanks for attending. Wait, I'm going to just do one last thing for Facebook. Sorry, guys, I've been kind of ignoring you, but not really. So this is the, I just put in the link to the web page of what I do during an appointment when I give you a body biomap of function dysfunction. And then the second link I'm putting in is that drainage talk. So you can learn more about that. What do I think of Andy Cutler protocol for detox for adults? You know what? I like the Cell Core Biosciences. I think it's easier. It's not as invasive. I think their products are amazing. I think that Cell Core, that's where I learned a lot about the drainage funnel. Like, you know, I learned this stuff just like you guys are learning today, right? So I learned it somewhere. And then I just started doing it, and lo and behold, it really works, and their supplements really work. And trust me, I've worked with tons and tons and tons of supplement companies. So what I found is you take the stuff out, the body works better, hands down. I was going to put in my Look at Cellcore Biosciences. So for anyone who wants to order and isn't a client with me yet, the preferred way is to work with me, but I am putting in my practitioner code, and I think a safe thing to start with is their biotoxin binder. So that's the only thing I'm really recommending from them. And the TUDCA, it's also very safe to start with. Anything else, I would say, you know, work with somebody who knows what they're doing, work with me, work with your practitioner, and talk to somebody who really knows what these products do. They're super strong. Like a little bit goes a long way. You know, I hear them say in my training I had with them earlier this year, the most expensive supplement is one that doesn't work. So, or one that doesn't work well, because you're paying money for nothing for expensive urine. So anyway, that's my little endorsement for Cellcore. Love those guys. And thank you all for being here, for watching, for coming, for staying. And I hope that that was, yeah, if you want to give me some feedback in the chat, like if you, you know, just an appreciation or what you thought, or like if this sucked, whatever, no, whatever you want to say, if you got anything out of it. So any feedback is welcome, or you can just email me, just respond. I'm going to send out an email later today or tomorrow with the recording, a link to this recording. So you'll be able to look at that. And I think I'll put also the link to the drainage page and the drainage talk. And I think that's it. Thanks, Ola. Thanks for attending. Good to see you here. And yeah, thanks everyone. Have a great weekend. Oh, thanks, Webalore. Oh, thanks. That's all sweet, you guys. Can you get a recording and all the links? Yes, Winifred, that is going to come out. I'm going to stop recording. Oops. All this technology.